On a cold December evening in 1979, a quiet shopping mall in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, became the setting for a brutal crime that would haunt a community for decades. The victim was a 20-year-old college student named Michele Martinko, a young woman with her whole life ahead of her. Her murder shocked the city, frustrated investigators for nearly 40 years, and ultimately became one of the longest-running cold cases in Iowa history. This is the story of Michele Martinko, the night she was killed, the investigation that went cold, and the modern forensic science that finally brought answers, decades later. Michele Martinko was born on February 11, 1959. She was raised in Cedar Rapids in a close-knit family and was known by friends as kind, intelligent, and dependable. Michele attended Linn-Mar High School, where she excelled academically and socially. After graduation, she enrolled at Coe College, studying elementary education. Those who knew her described Michele as thoughtful and responsible. She worked part-time at a local bank and was saving money for her future. She had dreams of becoming a teacher and starting a family of her own. There was nothing about her lifestyle or habits that suggested she lived recklessly or took unnecessary risks. On December 19, 1979, Michele left work early in the evening. She planned to do some Christmas shopping at Westdale Mall, a popular and busy shopping center in Cedar Rapids. It was a normal plan, the kind made by thousands of young people during the holiday season. She parked her car in the mall's lot just after 6 p.m. Michele would never come home. When Michele failed to return home that night, her parents became concerned. She was punctual and reliable. Disappearing without explanation was completely out of character. Later that evening, Michele's car was discovered in the Westdale Mall parking lot. Inside, police found her body in the front seat. She had been attacked violently. The nature of the crime made it immediately clear that this was not an accident or a robbery gone wrong. The parking lot, usually full of shoppers and activity, had been quieting as stores closed for the night. Investigators believed the attack occurred shortly after Michele returned to her car, possibly while she was unlocking it or sitting inside. There were no witnesses who could clearly identify the attacker. No screams had been reported. Whoever committed the crime acted quickly and vanished into the darkness. The randomness and brutality of the attack terrified the community. Parents warned their children. Young women began shopping in groups. A sense of fear lingered over Cedar Rapids, especially during nighttime hours. Police launched an immediate investigation. Hundreds of people were interviewed. Detectives collected physical evidence from the crime scene, including fingerprints, fibers, and biological material, though forensic technology at the time was limited. Several suspects were considered over the years. One early person of interest was a local man who reportedly confessed to multiple murders, but whose statements proved unreliable. Another suspect was investigated based on circumstantial evidence, but nothing could be proven. Despite extensive efforts, the case stalled. By the early 1980s, the murder of Michele Martinko had gone cold. For her family, the pain never faded. Michele's parents continued to push for answers, speaking publicly about their daughter and urging police not to give up. Each passing year without justice made the loss heavier. As time passed, leads dried up. Witness memories faded. Evidence aged. Many assumed the case would never be solved. But the evidence had not been forgotten. In the decades following Michele's murder, forensic science underwent a revolution. DNA analysis, once impossible, became one of the most powerful tools in criminal investigations. In the early 2000s, Cedar Rapids police revisited the Martinko case. Evidence that had been carefully preserved since 1979 was re-examined using modern techniques. Among the items tested was DNA recovered from Michele's clothing. The DNA profile did not match anyone in the criminal database at the time. But investigators did not stop there. In 2017, police turned to a new and controversial method: Genetic genealogy. This technique allows investigators to upload DNA profiles to public genealogy databases, searching for potential relatives rather than exact matches. The results pointed to a family tree, and eventually to a man named Jerry Burns. Jerry Burns lived a quiet, unremarkable life. He was born in 1955 and grew up in Iowa. He had no known violent criminal history. He served briefly in the military and later worked various jobs, including at factories and auto shops. To neighbors and acquaintances, Burns appeared ordinary. He lived alone. He was described as socially withdrawn, but not dangerous. Nothing about his public persona suggested he was capable of extreme violence. Yet DNA evidence told a different story. Investigators discreetly followed Burns and collected discarded items, including a straw and napkins. DNA from those items was tested. The results were conclusive. In December 2018, nearly 39 years after Michele Martinko's murder, Jerry Burns was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. The arrest stunned the community. Jerry Burns pleaded not guilty, and his trial began in 2020. Prosecutors built their case almost entirely on forensic evidence. There was no confession, no eyewitness, no clear motive. But the DNA evidence was powerful. Experts testified that Burns's DNA matched the profile found on Michele's clothing. Statistically, the odds of the DNA belonging to anyone else were astronomically low. Prosecutors argued that Burns had likely encountered Michele randomly at the mall and attacked her in a moment of uncontrolled violence. The lack of a known relationship between the two reinforced the theory that this was a crime of opportunity. The defense questioned the reliability of decades-old evidence and challenged the use of genetic genealogy, raising concerns about privacy and contamination. But the jury was convinced. In February 2020, Jerry Burns was found guilty of first-degree murder. Burns was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. For Michele Martinko's family, the verdict brought a mixture of relief and sorrow. Justice had finally been served, but nothing could restore what had been taken from them more than 4 decades earlier. Michele's father, who had long advocated for the case, passed away before seeing the arrest. Her mother and siblings expressed gratitude to investigators who refused to give up. The case became a landmark example of how modern forensic science can solve even the oldest crimes. But it also raised difficult questions. How many other killers remain undetected? How many cold cases still hold answers waiting in preserved evidence? And how many families are still waiting for justice? The murder of Michele Martinko is remembered not only for its brutality, but for the perseverance that ultimately brought closure. Her case demonstrated the power of DNA technology and genetic genealogy, tools that have since helped solve dozens of cold cases across the United States. More importantly, Michele is remembered as a person, not just a victim. A daughter, a sister, a friend. A young woman whose life was stolen far too soon. After 40 years of silence, her story was finally heard, and her killer was finally held accountable. If you like our content and want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to our channel by clicking the subscribe button below.